So today I want to talk to you about freedom. The chances are if you're seeing this video, you are experiencing a fair amount of freedom in your life. A certain amount of financial freedom in that the things that you need are paid and bought for, enough to where you can afford a mobile device or a laptop or a computer or a tablet or something to be watching this on. You have the kind of freedom that you have a little bit of free time in your life, so you're not working 12, 13-hour days. You got a little while to sit down and relax. You probably have freedom of speech, because otherwise YouTube would be blocked out of your channel. That's what I want to focus on a little bit today, is freedom of speech. But chances are you're living in one of the freer countries in this world, and one of the most free times, and freedom is something that you and I experience every day and take reasonably for granted. There was a time here in the world where who you married wasn't about whether or not the person was straight or gay. It was about whether or not you even wanted to marry that person. Being married to someone was a financial arrangement for the most part. So you didn't get to choose who you loved. You didn't get a chance to choose who you get to spend the rest of your life with. A lot of people were born into jobs they didn't want. You didn't get to choose the job that you went into. You didn't get to choose your career field. You were born a serf on a plot of land that your family was sworn to farm. You'd be stuck in that. Or you'd be born into the family business, you'd be stuck in that, or whatever. And right now, some of us, with the job markets being what they are, we only get to make very minor choices. Am I going to clean shitters for Walmart, or am I going to clean shitters for Hardee's? But at the end of the day, at least you get to choose the corporation you get to work for, and you probably get to choose the part of the world that you live in. You may be stuck in the country that you're in for many different reasons, but at least you get to choose the part of that country you get to live in. And so you're fairly free. And when it comes to communication, you're freer than we've ever been. I can speak with anybody anywhere in the world pretty much. I can speak with someone from Russia or China or South America or Africa or even right next door, Canada and Mexico. And I enjoy doing that. I really enjoy that freedom. I can express an idea, express an opinion, and express a thought that anyone can read or hear for the most part, unless you're in a handful of countries, China comes to mind, that have blocked that kind of free exchange of information. And last night I had dinner with a friend of mine, and we have a differing opinion a lot of the times when it comes to what's appropriate to say, what's not appropriate to say, what's appropriate to think or feel. He's a very, what you'd call soft kind of liberal, if that makes sense. Like, really does believe that the unpopular opinions maybe not should be voiced as often, or if at all, in a lot of cases. And I really enjoy talking to this guy, because I firmly believe, if you were around me in real life, you'd hear that I make all kinds of terrible, terrible jokes. Not only do I make fun of myself, my own weight, my own history, my own background of the part of the country that I come from, but then, and nothing's taboo, I'll make sexist or racist jokes just because I like the shock value. And obviously I don't do that here on YouTube, but I will do it. And most of the people know that that's my sense of humor. Most of the people know that that's just how I push that envelope. I like to push that envelope around my friends and around people that know me. It's even got me in trouble for sure, and I'm sure it's only a matter of time till one day it gets me in trouble here on the internet too. But when you have true freedom, when you have true ability to say or do anything you want, that's when you have true free speech. One of the things you have to deal with, one of the problems, is unpopular speech. And the internet is full of unpopular speech. You look at Reddit.com, for example. Reddit has millions and millions of subreddits, and Reddit's whole thing is that you can create a subreddit pretty much on any topic, and no matter what you want it to be. At one point, and this made history in 2011, Reddit.com had a jailbait forum in which they were posting pictures of clothed, perfectly legal photos of underage girls, which is obviously very unpopular speech, a very unpopular thing to do, and it made the front page of some newspapers, and it made the headlines at Fox News, and eventually they removed this from the subforum, which is great, which is honestly, in my opinion, what they should have done. But along with that subreddit, there's some other really disdainful ones. One about, let's say, for example, actual racism. I know that that's there. There's some actual sexists who've created subforums, subreddits. I even hear tell, though I've not seen with my own eyes, of a subreddit that teaches you how to properly beat your wife. I don't know if it's tongue-in-cheek. I don't know if it's literal. I hear there's charts. I hear, and that's what we were discussing last night. And I think that I have the opinion that that kind of speech is disgusting and awful and terrible and just churns my stomach and literally leaves me eating some of my own vomit. I think I share that opinion with my friend, and it's awful. It's completely awful. But that is freedom. That is freedom of speech at its worst, but at its best. And there's been a large incline of how free we've become, how free you can be when it comes to the speech that you use. Because if you go back to just 25, 30 years ago, when a little startup called Hustler magazine was first being printed, man, they fought that like you wouldn't believe, because they were showing pictures of women's vaginas, and that is in itself sexist and awful and kind of gross and obviously unmoralistic. And in the era of the day, in the atmosphere of the day, that was considered completely too far. You can't push speech to that level, and to sell that in a public place where children might see it, that's terrible, absolutely terrible. Well, right now, if you've made it to the age of 12 and you haven't seen a bare naked vagina or a penis, you live in a bubble. I mean, let's be entirely honest. The internet has blown that completely wide open, completely wide open. And now, the naked female body or the naked male body, not even really a concern. Like, most people of my generation or below don't even really think of anything. Oh, look, there's a woman's naked vagina. Here's a picture of a duck. Here's a picture of a cat. Here's two people having anal intercourse. Whatever. It's just natural, normal, healthy thing to look at. And so what the point that I'm trying to make is that I really like free speech, and I really like the ability to look at pictures of cats or vaginas on the internet. I think it's very important that we maintain that right. And part of maintaining that right is harboring unpopular speech. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say, and just in case my friend ever sees this, I personally think they should take a subreddit down that teaches you how to beat your wife. Obviously, it's criminal. And just like any freedom, the freedom of speech has to be narrowed a little bit, certainly. And the freedom of subreddit should seriously be narrowed a little bit to where that's a subreddit you should seriously consider sanctioning. Seriously. Makers of Reddit, seriously consider sanctioning that one. The same way the freedom of speech doesn't allow you to go into a crowded theater and yell fire because you endanger lives. That's endangering lives. But that's a whole other topic other than the freedom of speech, if that necessarily makes sense. Because that's a criminal act. You're endangering lives. People are going to stampede, and you're going to disrupt financially, mentally, physically the lives of other people. And that's really, really the gist of my argument here that I want to get to. You should be free to do pretty much whatever you want up until the point that it begins harming other people. That's the wall, in my honest opinion. That's the limit of where freedom ends, is when it transgresses on someone else's freedom. And I got this idea from some very popular people. It was the founding fathers of America, who very clearly defined that my personal freedom ends when it encroaches on the personal freedom of someone else. Now, I'm pulling you into an argument here, so I'm sorry for this, but that's where I truly, truly am beginning to wonder about the political atmosphere across the world. Because if you take a look at Australia, if you don't like violent video games, you don't want violent video games in your life, you don't want your children playing them, that's great. Choose not to play them. But you can't legislate away the freedom to have access to that. You just can't do it. If you happen to be Catholic, And I read a statistic today that 98% of Catholics use birth control, but so it's a straw man's argument. Anyway, but here we go. If you are Catholic and you don't believe in birth control, just don't use birth control. Simple. Don't restrict everybody else's opportunity to use birth control. And when it comes to freedom of speech, just because I use the freedom, some people will use the freedom here on the internet to create unpopular speech or unpopular arguments or unpopular images or unpopular things, doesn't mean that you can restrict freedom of speech. And here in America right now, that's what the entire political atmosphere is about. Let's restrict what kind of files you can share on the internet and what the damages is. Let's restrict the kind of ideas that you can have and share on the internet. Let's restrict people's right to certain freedoms here in America. I don't believe in gay marriage, so you can't believe in gay marriage. You can't have it. I don't want to recognize your gay marriage. You know, that's when you're encroaching on everybody else's personal freedom, and that's where you have to draw the line. What I'm saying is, though, you, the people watching this right now, you're some of the freest people that have ever lived on this planet. You have more options in front of you, more ideas in front of you, more freedom in front of you than anyone ever in history. Use it responsibly. You can be the kind of guy that creates a YouTube channel and comes up here and tries to encourage people to do normal, healthy, happy things and to live positive lives and fight against suicide. You might come up here and you might make retarded policeman sketches, or you might go the Jenna Marbles route, just try to make people laugh, or you could be the amazing atheist and make a YouTube channel out of hatred and anger and be a complete asshole. Or you could be one of the sick, depraved bastards who makes a subreddit about beating your wife. That choice is yours, and I'm encouraging you to use this choice responsibly, because I promise you, if you give them an excuse, they will take it away. They will take that right away. You yourselves, some of the people watching this will take your right away if you misuse this capacity. So maybe I don't even really know what I'm saying here, but it's just a topic that I've been thinking about a lot, and I discussed with my roommate today, and I wanted to talk to you guys about it. So I'm going to say something wildly unpopular here to finish this video, and then we'll go on about our day, and forever in the history you can quote, you can say, remember that one time, Boogie, you said that one really offensive thing? I'm going to say, oh God, it's tough to say. I got a drink for this. World of Warcraft is mediocre. Please don't ban me.